Hello, and welcome everyone to another episode of Riz Talks. I'm your host, Riz, and I'm thrilled to have you join me again. Our motto here is to think again about our views. Let us challenge the way we see others, the world, and ourselves. Today, we're venturing into dangerous personal territory. We're talking about personalities, organizations, governments that unite us all in collective annoyance, from your friend who preaches environmentalism while driving a gas guzzling SUV to the politician who campaigns on family values while having an affair with a subordinate. We're talking about the species of humans and collectively groups that are despised in every culture, in every era, across every continent. Today's episode is titled The Hateful Hypocrites. The first rule of relation should be to avoid them in your life. And before anyone gets nervous, let me be clear. We're not talking about the occasional inconsistency. We all walking contradictions. I myself have given advice about financial discipline while occasionally ordering a $7 latte I absolutely did not need. No, we're not talking about the professional hypocrites, the individuals, organizations, and even governments that lie sometimes, but those that lie all the time as a lifestyle, that preach water and drink wine, that demand from you a standard they would never dream of applying to themselves. This is a lesson I learned from my grandfather. The hypothesis is simple: hypocrites are hateful. They do not deserve our respect, and the first rule of healthy relationships, whether personal, professional, or civic, is to show them the door. Now, let's get into why hypocrisy triggers something so primal in us. It's not just that they're wrong, it's that they've weaponized virtue itself. Do they think we are dumb? Or do they think they're too smart? This is insulting in either case, and we do not have to accept it. Let's take a quick trip around the world. Every culture, it seems, has a special place of contempt for the hypocrites. In ancient China, Confucius was asked about the ideal ruler. He replied, "To govern is to be correct." If you set an example by being correct, who would dare to remain incorrect? A leader who does not embody the virtue they demand has no legitimate authority. The Yoruba people of Nigeria, Africa have a saying: the one who points a finger at another should remember that four fingers are pointing back at themselves. It's a beautiful, humbling reminder that our judgment of others is often a mirror of our own flaws. The Greek playwright Euripides wrote, "A man who is a hypocrite and pretends to be what he is not is a man who is not to be trusted." The Roman satirist Juvenal said, "Do not trust the face," because the most dangerous people, he argued, are those who hide their corruption behind a mask of piety. The hypocrisy of saying one thing and doing another is described as something divine justice itself finds detestable. So humanity has arrived at a consensus. The hypocrite is uniquely contemptible. They take trust, the currency of all human connection, and counterfeit it. Our hatred of hypocrites isn't just cultural, it's wired into us. Studies published in Psychological Science explored why we react more negatively to hypocrites than to people who are simply wrong. The researchers, led by Jared Pisa, found something counterintuitive. When someone condemned a behavior and then engaged in it themselves, participants rated them as more blameworthy than someone who engaged in the behavior and simply said nothing. Does that remind you of Boris Johnson having a party in COVID days? So, in other words, we'd rather deal with an honest jerk than a preaching hypocrite. Why? Because the honest jerk isn't trying to manipulate our moral compass, but the hypocrite is. This has profound implications for how we navigate people, organizations, politicians, governments. Because on a geopolitical level, we see the same dynamics of hypocrisy, where a government preaches human rights while systematically violating them, demands transparency while operates in secrecy. The recent genocides, kidnappings, killings over the past years and centuries in the name of freedom, democracy, and human rights is hard to watch. When they came and conquered for just getting all the assets, that was one thing, but they didn't have to lie to us. But now pretending to be the good guys when stealing all these resources and subjugating people is not acceptable to us. The international community's response is visceral now. Repeating the false narrative cannot fool people forever. Oppressors pretending to be the victim is not kosher. The hypocrisy itself becomes an additional offense besides the things that they're doing. The German philosopher Hannah Arendt, writing about totalitarian- totalitarianism, observed that the ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or the convinced communist or the Zionist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction, true and false, no longer exists. The hypocrite in this view isn't just lying, they're eroding the very ground on which truth stands. I'd like to share something from Japanese theatrical tradition that captures the essence of our contempt for hypocrisy, something we're talking about today. In no theaters, actors wear masks. Some masks are beautiful, representing virtuous characters. Others are grotesque, representing demons or villains. But there's a specific mask called the Hanya that represents a woman consumed by jealousy and rage. What's remarkable about the Hanya mask is that it can look differently depending on the angle. From the front, it appears terrifying, but tilted slightly and the expression shifts to something heartbreakingly sad. The hypocrisy we despise is not the wearing of a mask. We all wear masks sometimes, at work, in your social functions, when we're trying to be our best selves, maybe in an interview. The hypocrisy we hate is when the mask is worn to deceive, to manipulate, to demand from others what we refuse to give ourselves. It's the honey mask worn by someone who insists it's a smile. The reason we hate hypocrites is that they aren't just our enemies. They pretend to be our friends while sharpening their claws. So we've seen the research that shows our brains are wired to despise the hypocrites more than the honest sinner. We have learned why hypocrisy is not just a personal flaw, but a social poison for humanity. The conclusion is stark, but I believe it's liberating. Hypocrites, the ones who preach standards they won't meet, who demand transparency they won't provide, who lie as a lifestyle, do not deserve our respect. They do not deserve a place in our inner circle. So, again, the first rule of relationship, whether it's individuals, organizations, or governments, is to delete them from your life. Not because we demand perfection. None of us can offer that, but because we demand honesty. We demand that the mask not be used to deceive. As the African American civil rights activist James Baldwin wrote, I love America more than any other country in the world. Exactly for this reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. And this is applicable for all cultures, countries. Love and critiques are not opposites. Hypocrisy and trust are. So, here's my challenge to you. Look at the people in your life. Look at the organizations you support. Look at the governments you answer to. Who is wearing a mask they refuse to remove? Who is demanding from you a standard they won't apply to themselves? And are we, being in our own relationships, are we living our values? Thank you for joining me on this episode of Risk Talks. Are we living in a way that will leave this world better than we found it? It's now time to act. So please share the message with others. Think again, challenge ideas, join the conversation, and subscribe. This is Risk Talks. Be curious, be kind, and come back for more.